The Department of Agrarian Reform creates a task force to look into the killing of 9 sugarcane farmers in Sagay, Negros Occidental, as well as the possible involvement of a rebel breakaway group. DAR also clarifies that the slain farmers were not agrarian reform beneficiaries. Ray Pelayo tells us why.
The Department of Agrarian Reform condemns the massacre of sugar farmers in Hacienda Nene in Sagay City, Negros Occidental last October 20. According to DAR Secretary John Castro, they have formed a task force to investigate the incident which led to the death of 9 individuals including 2 minors. Based on the initial report, the incident happened around 9:45 p.m. when the victims were about to rest inside a makeshift shelter after a day's work.
So what transpired was actually a land occupation. When you say land occupation, these farmers entered the premises of the plantation without any legal basis at all.
According to a source of the agency, the gunmen were members of a revolutionary proletarian army, a New People's Army breakaway group turned private army for some private landowners. Authorities, however, are still verifying the said information. The DAR Secretary also clarifies that the slain farmers were not agrarian reform beneficiaries. DAR Undersecretary Luis Mainrado Pangulayan adds that the site was privately owned and was never covered by the government's agrarian reform program because the owner already distributed parcels of land to 25 donnees since 1988. Even before DAR started issuing notice of coverage, the newly formed Task Force Sagay will determine what help the agency can provide to families of slain farmers, particularly legal assistance. DAR is also looking for available land that it can distribute to the affected farmers in the area. The government is currently working to revive the comprehensive agrarian reform program to properly distribute over 500 hectares of land in different parts of the country to potential beneficiaries. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Meanwhile, the Philippine National Police already has 3 persons of interest in the killing of 9 farmers in Sagay City. Police investigators are also probing 4 possible motives for the bloody incident. Let's find out why from Lea Ilagan.
The Police Regional Office 6 has released an update on a slay case involving 9 sugar workers in Hacienda Nene, Barangay Suganon in Sagay City, Negros Occidental last Saturday. Pro 6 Director Chief Superintendent John Bulalakaw says they are already probing 3 persons of interest in the killing, including a core member of the National Federation of Sugar Workers. Bulalakaw adds that 2 of the persons of interest have been subjected to a paraffin test. However, he stopped short of disclosing the names of the person and the nature of their participation as the investigation is still in the early stages. Bulalakaw also clarifies that only 5 to 7 suspects are involved in the crime instead of 40 armed men as reported earlier.
Noong October 20, pinuntahan sila ng mga 40 na yon na alleged farmers talaga at kinausap na wag silang mag-squad dun sa lugar. But they insisted, itong mga namatay, insisted to stay on, kaya nung gabi namatay sila.
Speaking to people familiar to the victims, Sagay City Chief of Police Chief Inspector Robert Mansueto says the slain farmers may have drawn the ire of fellow farmers, particularly those who also claim the land they are occupying.
In terms of identity, yun pang ni-work out natin kasi nagmamatch sa sinasabi natin na former farm workers din.
Authorities also disclosed that a 38 caliber pistol and several shotgun bullets were recovered from the victims' bodies. Police investigators are also looking at 4 angles, including land dispute and the possibility that the landowner, reportedly a certain Mrs. Tolentino, may have sent goons to attack farmers who had occupied the land.
Ito daw may-ari na si Miss Tolentino, pinarenta yung farm niya. Pero bago niya pinarenta, merong mga 40 na farmers siya doon. At allegedly, yun daw mga farmers na yon have already in their possession the deed of donation from the landowners. Ngayon, nung malaman na mayroong deed of donation, itong mga biktima pumunta dun sa lugar na instigated by the core members of the Sugarcane Federation ng Negros.
Police are also checking the possible involvement of the New People's Army. Lea Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
The Makabayan Bloc is urging the House of Representatives to hold an inquiry on the death of 9 sugar farmers in Sagay City. Grace Casin tells us why.
Members of the Makabayan Bloc has filed today House Bill number 2262, which seeks to investigate the death of 9 sugar workers in Sagay City. The Makabayan Solons believe the inquiry should be done the soonest possible time to prevent any similar incident from happening to other Filipino farmers. The lawmakers are also calling on the Commission on Human Rights to hold a parallel investigation on the killings. Based on their monitoring, around 172 farmers were slain under the Duterte administration.
Ito raw ay kagagawan ng mga NPA. No? So nired tag nila itong grupong ito. Pagkatapos ng mamasakir na ito, sinabi na kagagawan ng NPA. Malaking kagaguhan, no? Ginagago na tayo rito.
The Makabayan Bloc also urges President Rodrigo Duterte to order the relief of the station and regional police commanders in the area following the massacre.
Anong klaseng mga pulis opisyal na ito, hindi pa natapos ang kanilang investigation, ongoing pa raw ang investigation, meron na silang conclusion.
Malacañang has condemned the killing of 9 Sagay farmers, saying the palace is deeply perturbed to learn about the incident. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo also said in a statement that the Philippine National Police has already been ordered to conduct a thorough and impartial investigation on this act. Sagay Mayor Alfredo Maranon III also offered earlier 250,000 peso reward money for the information leading to the identification and arrest of the killers. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
Authorities are investigating the motive behind the killing of an independent election candidate in the town of San Antonio last Friday. The victim, 42-year-old Alan Hoson, was shot dead near his home by a still unidentified motorcycle riding gunman. Police recovered at the crime scene 7 fire cartridge cases and a deformed bullet slug. Aside from politics, authorities are looking into business or personal conflict as the motives behind the killing. Looking back, Hoson lost the vice mayor race in 2016. The temporary ban in the importation of poultry from California, USA takes effect following the culling of more than 100 game fowls that were smuggled into the country. Asher Kadapan Jr. tells us why in this exclusive report.
144 game fowls that were illegally slipped into the country from California, USA have been killed Saturday at the compound of the Bureau of Animal Industry in Quezon City. The game fowls, seized at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport early October, were killed through euthanasia chamber and were later buried in a deep crevice to ensure that it will not be dug up by stray animals. The Department of Agriculture says the fowls needed to be killed as they might be carriers of a new strain of avian virus called the Newcastle disease, which is now causing an outbreak in Southern California. The shipment of game fowls were confiscated last October 10 at the Philippine Airlines cargo warehouse after its broker failed to present a health certificate and endorsement papers from the U.S. Department of Agriculture within 10 days. But broker Alfredo Cruz claims that presenting a health certificate from the USDA is not among the requirements when shipping live chickens in the country.
But upon checking sa Administrative Order 2010, number 9, wala naman dun eh. Hindi nasasaad doon na magre-require ang importer ng 100% examination in which yan ang hinihingi namin sa kanila. Give us proof the rule of law and regulations so that there will be a basis of violation.
The DA admits there were instances when illegal shipments slipped by them in the past. However, the agency assures it has implemented stricter measures to address agri-smuggling.
Totoo po yun na marami pong mga dating ginagawa na sabihin natin kulang siya ng dokumento o hindi tama, no? Pero under the Duterte administration, changes here.
DA also notes that the temporary ban on the importation of chicken from California has taken effect to prevent virus-infected chickens from jeopardizing the country's poultry industry.
Naglabas na po ang ating Secretary of Agriculture ng ban Binaban po natin ang pag-i-import sa isang party po ng Estados Unidos sapagkat nagkaroon po ng report na nagkaroon po dito ng outbreak ng Newcastle disease.
Asher Cadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
To complete the most significant news for this day, Y News continues. Here are the top stories. The legal battle is not yet over for Justice Secretary Menandro Guevara. This is after the Makati City Regional Trial Court Branch 148 rejected their motion seeking issuance of a whole departure order and an alias warrant of arrest against Senator Antonio Trillanes IV in line with the coup d'etat charges against him. Judge Andres Soriano in his ruling refused to reopen a case that the same court had already dismissed in 2011, saying the final judgment can no longer be changed. Soriano also junked the DOJ's arguments that missing records prove Trillanes did not file the required application for amnesty. The court, however, recognized the legality of President Rodrigo Duterte's proclamation number 572 that nullified the amnesty grant. Secretary Guevara says the lower court's verdict opens an opportunity for the High Court to forge a new judicial principle.
So we expect that both parties, of course I'm talking on behalf of the DOJ, may elevate this ruling of the RTC to a superior court. All right, on the part of Senator Trillanes, he may probably question that part of the ruling which stated that proclamation number 572 is valid and constitutional. On the part of the DOJ, will probably question the appreciation of the evidence by the trial court branch 148.
Trillanes, meanwhile, expresses gratitude for the resolution that wiped his worries of any threats of arrest and court-martial. However, he still has to face a trial on November 21 before the Makati RTC branch 150 for a pending rebellion case in connection with the 2007 Manila Peninsula siege. Malacañang spurns the Inter-Parliamentary Union for making one-sided evaluations on the country's domestic affairs, calling the group's resolutions an affront to the core of the state's principles. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo says the IPU's assessments on the cases of opposition Senators Laila de Lima and Antonio Trillanes IV was an intrusion to the country's autonomy. On Sunday, the IPU, which is a global organization of national parliaments, issued resolutions expressing concerns for de Lima, who is currently detained in drug-related charges, and Trillanes, who faces revived rebellion charges. It also announced its plans to send an official mission to probe the alleged rights violations committed against the two senators. But Panelo says the mission is not welcome in the country. He also calls the group as prying lawmakers, and its resolutions only aim to cast aspersions on the integrity of the local legal process. The Philippine National Police is probing 3 persons of interest in the killing of 9 sugar farmers in Hacienda Nene in Sagay City, Negros Occidental last October 20. The PNP says the 3 includes a member of the National Federation of Sugar Workers, while 2 of them have already been subjected to a paraffin test. Police investigators also clarify that only 5 to 7 suspects are involved in the case, contrary to the 40 armed men reported earlier. Police are also looking at 4 angles, including land dispute, the involvement of the New People's Army, and the possibility that the landowner may have hired men to attack farmers who had occupied the land.
Ito daw may-ari na si Miss Tolentino, pinarenta yung farm niya. Pero bago niya pinarenta, merong mga 40 na farmers siya doon. At allegedly, yun daw mga farmers na yun have already in their possession the deed of donation from the landowners. Ngayon, nung malaman na mayroong deed of donation, itong mga biktima pumunta doon sa lugar na instigated by the core members of the Sugarcane Federation ng Negros.
The government will possibly name a provisional third telecommunications player by November to challenge PLDT Incorporated and Globe Telecom. This is despite a complaint filed in court by one of the bidders, Now Corporation. questioning the selection process that has allegedly turned into a money-making scheme. Information and Communications Technology Secretary Eliseo Rios says that barring court action, the new telco player will be selected with the help of a computer using the highest committed level of service as criteria. The agency expects to award the license for the new telco player on February of next year. The ICT also vows to level the playing field for telcos by issuing a new policy, though it may take 5 years before it can be finalized and implemented.
It will come with policies for the equitable distribution, redistribution of the spectrum, especially through frequency refarming.
Lawyer Ferdinand Topacio urges the Commission on Elections to disqualify Senator Coco Pimentel from seeking a re-election in the 2019 midterm polls. In a petition filed Monday, Topacio argued that allowing Pimentel to run in 2019 will violate the law because he already served for 2 consecutive terms from 2007 to 2013 and 2013 up to the present. Can be recalled that the Senate Electoral Tribunal favored Pimentel's poll protest against former Senator Miguel Zubiri in connection with the 2007 elections. The SET ruling allowed Pimentel to take over the remaining 2 years of the losing Zubiri in Senate, which Topacio believes constitute Pimentel's first term in the Senate.
Kung annulled yung proclamation ni Zubiri, it's as if the proclamation never happened. Wait, ab initio. Oo. So, kaninong term yung sinerve ni Zubiri? Term yon ni Coco Pimentel.
Senator Coco Pimentel in a statement said he is ready to face the complaint, while COMELEC, for its part, said the petition will have to be reviewed first before a decision can be issued. The Philippine National Police believes that extending the martial law in Mindanao can help maintain peace and order and lower cases of violence in relation to the upcoming midterm elections. PNP Chief Oscar Albayalde says the imposition of martial law in the region was not only due to the Marawi City siege but also to thwart attempts of terrorists and extremists to establish networks in the Philippines. Albayalde also maintains that the martial law declared by the Duterte administration is different from the one implemented during the Marcos regime. The PNP chief also says the decision to extend military rule beyond December 31 deadline is up to President Rodrigo Duterte.
Wala mang pag-curtail ng freedom doon sa ano. Ang nakita lang natin is yung mga massive yung checkpoints na nakikita natin doon and surrenders of firearms. Tsaka tingin ko based on mga feedbacks, mas gusto pa nga ng mga tao doon na may martial law.
Expect scattered rain showers in Mindanao and parts of Luzon tomorrow. Leslie Longbowen is at the UNTV Weather Center. Tell us why. Go ahead, Leslie.
Yes, good evening. Pag-asa has not monitored any potential storms that may enter the country in the next days. However, Palawan and Mindanao are affected by the Intertropical Convergence Zone or ITCZ, while northeasterly surface wind flow is affecting Luzon. Quezon, Bicol Region, and Mimaropa will be under cloudy skies with scattered rain showers and thunderstorms. Rains will also be experienced in Mindanao, while generally fair weather is expected in Metro Manila and the rest of the country. Based on Pag-asa's forecast, temperature in Metro Manila tomorrow will range from 24 to 33 degrees Celsius, 15 to 23 degrees Celsius in Baguio City, 25 to 32 degrees Celsius in Metro Cebu, and 24 to 32 degrees Celsius in Metro Davao. Tomorrow, the sun is expected to rise at 5:49 in the morning. That's weather forecast. Back to the studio.
Thank you, Leslie Longbowen, reporting from the UNTV Weather Center. And for the news abroad, here's Pauline Ompico live from Tokyo, Japan. Pauline, good evening.
Good evening, Diego. 18 people were killed and more than 180 were injured in a rail tragedy in Taiwan, which is said to be the deadliest in decades. Amiel Pascual tells us why.
Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen offered words of comfort and encouragement on Monday as she met relatives of the 18 dead and 187 injured after a train derailed in the island's northeast, the worst rail disaster in more than 3 decades. 4 carriages overturned on Sunday after all 8 cars of a train carrying 366 passengers left the tracks on a bend near a railway station in Ilan County.
Here in Sinma Station, as you can see, the 4 trains from the Puyuma Express 632 has totally tipped over the rails. It was traveling between Taipei and the eastern county of Taitung when the accident happened. According to Taiwan Railways Administration, the worst casualties in the 4 trains that overturned at 90 degrees.
Tung Xiaoling, 43, had lost 8 of 17 family members, aged 19 to 67, who were returning from her sister's wedding celebrations.
No one can accept that one day you are a bride and the next day you are mourning a family member.
One foreigner, an American, was among those injured in the disaster, which was the island's deadliest rail tragedy since a 1981 collision in northern Taiwan that killed 30 people. Meanwhile, CCTV footage showed moment the commuter train derailed from its tracks. Transport Ministry officials said they were looking into speed as a possible factor, as well as a report filed by the driver 20 minutes before the incident that said the air pressure in the train's brake was too low. Rail services resumed early on Monday after all the derailed carriages had been moved to one side of the tracks. The Puyuma Express is the fastest amongst Taiwan's regular trains and went into operation in 2013.
Health authorities are now urging people to donate blood to help treat the large number of injured passengers, while an investigation was underway to find out the cause of the crash. Amiel Pascual, UNTV News and Rescue, Ilan, Taiwan.
Saudi Arabia's foreign minister calls the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi a huge and grave mistake, but he shielded the crown prince from the widening crisis. Joan Nano tells us why.
A grave and unacceptable mistake. This was how Saudi Arabia described the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi at its Istanbul consulate. The comment that came from Foreign Minister Adel Al-Jubeir resolved the most direct yet from Riyadh, which has given multiple and conflicting accounts about Khashoggi's killing on October 2, first denying his death and later admitting it amid an international outcry. But Saudi Arabia sought to shield its powerful crown prince from the widening crisis, saying Mohammed bin Salman had not been aware. The Saudi press agency also said late Sunday that both Saudi King Salman and Prince Mohammed had called Khashoggi's son Salah to express condolences.
There obviously was a tremendous mistake made, and what compounded the mistake was the attempt to try to cover up. That is unacceptable in any government. These things unfortunately happen.
The weeks of denial and lack of credible evidence in the face of allegations from Turkish officials that Khashoggi had been killed have shaken global confidence in ties with the world's top oil exporter. U.S. Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin said Saudi Arabia's admission that the Washington Post columnist was killed in a fistfight was a good first step, but not enough, though he added it was premature to discuss sanctions against Riyadh. 3 European powers, Germany, Britain, and France, pressed Riyadh to provide facts, and Chancellor Angela Merkel said Germany would not export arms to Saudi Arabia while uncertainty over Khashoggi's fate persisted. Meanwhile, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan appeared to suggest he was getting ready to release some information about the Turkish investigation and would do so at his weekly speech on Tuesday to members of his ruling AK party. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue.
The counting of ballots begins in Afghanistan following delays, security threats, and chaotic preparations that mar the parliamentary elections. Thio Maraos tells us why.
Ballot counting started on Sunday at some of the polling stations in Afghan capital Kabul for a parliamentary election marred by long delays due to technical and organizational problems. Most Afghans were unable to vote in Saturday's parliamentary election after hundreds of polling stations failed to open. They were given another chance to cast their ballot on Sunday after voting times were extended despite security threats and warnings of fraud.
There were lots of issues. The biometric system was not working, and some of the voters' names were not on the lists who have been nominated for voting.
We have suffered a lot of war and conflicts in the country, and now I've come here to vote for a person who should work to bring security in the country. I ask the people to come and vote for the prosperity of Afghanistan.
The United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan issued a statement saying it was encouraged by the high numbers who voted on Saturday, many of whom endured long delays due to technical and organizational problems. Many independent election observers have been reluctant to work, fearing militant attacks. Over 120 incidents involving hand grenades or improvised explosive devices were reported on Saturday, and scores of people were killed or wounded across the country. According to a senior foreign official, monitoring of security incidents showed at least 36 people were killed and some 130 wounded across the country on Saturday. The vote for the lower house of parliament is seen as a test ahead of next year's more important presidential election, but the run-up was marred by chaotic preparations, accusations of cheating, and threats of militant violence. Kat Dumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue.
Those are the news from the other sides of the globe. Back to you, Diego.
Thank you, Pauline Pico, live from Tokyo, Japan. Eight-time Olympic sprint champion Usain Bolt has been offered a contract by Australian professional side Central Coast Mariners, according to his agent, Ricky Sims. The 32-year-old Speed King Bolt scored 2 goals for the Mariners in a trial match this month as he seeks a switch to soccer. Bolt, who retired from track and field last year, was not involved in Mariners' a league opener against Brisbane Roar on Sunday, after which coach Mike Mulvey said he knew nothing about any contract for the Jamaican. A female humpback gives a diver a clear message in the waters of the Indian Ocean with a dangerous fin swipe. Meanwhile, flocks of sheep and their shepherds take over roads in central Madrid. Leslie Longbowen tells us why.
Sheep replaced the usual traffic in central Madrid on Sunday as shepherds steered hundreds of the animals through the Spanish capital to proclaim their right to use ancient migration routes. Every year since 1994, sheep farmers have paraded the livestock through the city, an itinerary that once cut through undeveloped countryside on their way to graze in winter pastures in southern Spain. Sheep farmers pay a symbolic charge enshrined in a 1418 agreement with the city council, equivalent to 50 maravedis, medieval copper coins, per 1,000 sheep brought through the central Sol Square and Gran Via Street. Whale watching on the Indian Ocean island of Reunion may be a victim of its own success after a series of run-ins between a female humpback and over-eager divers seizing a rare chance to swim with the creatures. Since the start of the season in June this year, some 230 humpback whales have been counted in the area by scientists. But according to local conservationists, too often the spotters do not respect guidelines. One agitated female was seen taking swipes with her fins at a diver. Whale watching is a major draw for tourists and has increased in recent years, prompting authorities to set up the Tranquility Brigade last year to protect the local sea life. Leslie Longbowen, UNTV News and Rescue.
And those are the reasons behind the news, October 22, 2018. On behalf of William Thio and Rheena Villamor-Camara, I'm Angelo Castro III. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.
UNTV, your public service channel.